What's up YouTube? This is Zerco, and I'm going to be bringing you a Redstone video today. So this video is going to be part of a new series that I like to call Redstone Explained. Now, everybody on YouTube gives you Minecraft Redstone videos, and they show you this block goes here, that block goes there, and it works. And that's great if you just want a basic design that you can throw into your world. The goal for this series, obviously I'm going to be giving you a design, but the goal is to explain to you why the redstone works the way that it does. And that way you can have a better understanding of it so that in the future you can make up your own designs. So what we have right here is a micro crop farm. And the point of this farm is to get a bunch of crops. Now, it works great. You stand right here and you hold down right click and it'll grow your crops and you get a whole bunch really fast. Very useful thing to have in your world. Now, the only downside of it is it uses a bunch of bone meal. But if you have a hostile mob farm, you shouldn't be too worried about that. So, without further ado, let's get right into the design. Alright, so to start building this thing, we're going to want to put a block of dirt down. This is going to be farmland. So we need some water. So just build a little cubby right there. We're going to need some blocks around here and give it a till. Now, an observer facing the farmland like that, and a dispenser facing this way, temporary block, and a dispenser facing that way. Now, block right here, and an observer facing this way, and an observer facing this way. And a sticky piston here with a lever on here to turn the clock on and off. Now, what we're going to want to do is put a block here and a bit of redstone dust, and we're going to want to bring this signal up to sticky piston here that pushes a block down. So to do that, all we're going to need to do is have dust around here like this, a repeater set on 2 ticks, and a piece of dust on top like this. Now we're going to want to make it dark when that piston extends, so set a block right up there like that. So now this is the basis of the farm completed. So if we set our clock on, grab ourselves some bone meal, and fill these dispensers up. We can grab ourselves some seeds, and you see it's already working. So that is the base of the farm. Now you see I got an extra little bit up here. Now this is so that you can stay here for longer periods of time. So what you're going to want to do is take a hopper going into this dispenser and a hopper going into that one. Take another hopper going into this hopper here, the chest up top here. So now, if we fill this thing up with bone meal, it'll start evenly dispensing. Now, it's going to get a little bit backed up in here when you get towards the end because there's one extra hopper holding extra spots. But as long as you keep that chest pretty full, it shouldn't be a problem. But when you get to the very end, just know that this dispenser will run out slightly before this dispenser does. But now you can sit here, put a weight, oops, turn our clock on first. Put a weight on your key, on your mouse, or reroute it to a key, and you could sit here for hours. Now you could build a little collection system as well to drop your inventory in a very quick fashion, and all kinds of stuff to add to this farm. But this is the basic design, and there you go. So if that's all you were watching the video for, go ahead and click off now. There is your design on how to build a farm. But if you would like to know a little bit more about how this farm actually functions, stick around because we're getting into that right now. Alright, so this is a micro crop farm, so we're always going to want to start with a piece of dirt, and we're always going to need some water. Those are just the basics of how you grow crops. So, till this land, and there's our start, right? We can plant seeds on this now, and it'll grow, but not exactly at the speed that we want it to. So, now we can take the basis of how the redstone works and put two dispensers down like this. So this is going to be the thing that bone meals our crops as we put them down. Now, if you don't know, two observers facing into each other will create a clock, and a pretty fast one at that. So that's what we're going to be using to make these dispensers fire. So if we have them come out, if we have a observer clock, we're going to need it to go into something that's going to power both of these at the same time. So if we power this block right here, if we put a block here and power it, it's going to power this dispenser and it's going to power this dispenser, because a powered block will power any redstone components on any of the 4 cardinal sides of it. Well, technically 6 cardinal sides. But, so with that, now all we got to do is create the observer clock out the back here. So now it's making the clock just like we saw, but when this observer fires, it's firing into this block and it's making these dispensers powered. So now we're going to need a way to turn off the system. So the best way to do that is to just put a sticky piston back here, grab yourself a lever. Now the sticky piston, when it extends, it'll push these observers into each other, it'll start the clock. When it retracts, these observers aren't facing each other anymore, so no more clock. So that's just a good way to start and stop a clock that you're going to need at that higher speed. So that's the clock handled, and now we're powering this block, which is powering our dispensers. So if we wanted to fill this up with bone meal right now, we could do that. And we'll see that if we have our clock turned on and we grab some seeds, it will grow the crop up. Now we have to collect that somehow. So the best way to do that is to have an observer facing the crop. Now you see when the crop grows up, we'll take it here for an example. When the crop grows up, it'll send a signal. Now, the inherent flaw in all designs that use this principle is that this observer is going to fire multiple times. Now, there's not really an easy way around that, so we just manipulate the timing a bit to kind of account for that. So, how do we get the crop collected? Well, with another little example here, I can show you. We're going to need that. If we have a piece of farmland over here, this should still be farm. I don't know if that stone block's actually going to affect it. But if we have a crop here, and we surround it with blocks so that it's completely dark, light level 0, we'll see that what happens is the crop gets harvested, because crops can't grow in light level 0. So we're going to use that principle to break these crops. So we bring our signal out around here, and what we're going to need is a sticky piston, and that sticky piston is going to push a block down right here. But that's not all we need because we're still going to have light coming in from the top. Okay, so we'll put that block there. But now there's an extra thing that people don't think about, because if we bring our signal out, we'll just set it on 4 ticks for now. If we bring that up, see, it didn't get broken. Now, why is that? The reason that it didn't get broken is because, as you can see, cropland is not a full block tall. So we have light coming in from this side, and this side from the bottom. So we're going to need to put a block here, and a block here. Now, when this block comes down, we'll just simulate that. You see it gets broken, because now it's going down to light level 0. So now let's talk about the timing of this repeater and why we need a repeater at all. Why couldn't we just run redstone here? And then, I mean, we could make that way smaller, right? Well, the problem with that, if we turn our clock on, is it doesn't give enough time to really grow the crop unless it instantly grows, which sometimes it does, but it usually needs that second round before it'll grow. So you can see maybe about 30 to 40% of the time we're getting a full grow. Maybe half if you're lucky, but that's not really that efficient. And it's taking extra time because we have all of these failed grows in the process. So what we can do with that is we can delay the system slightly by putting a repeater here. Now, if we just put it on 1 tick, you can see this. Oh, and this also happens when you just run the line directly through it. It just happens quicker, so it will almost correct itself. But if we just set it on 1 tick, you'll see this piston will spit out its block. Now, what happens with that is when a piston gets a 1 tick pulse, it'll just spit out its block because it takes 2 ticks for it to extend and then retract. So obviously we can't be breaking the farm every time we place crop. That would be pretty redundant. So if we set it on 2 ticks, now you'll see if we turn our clock on, it's growing most of the time. Now, there is kind of a point of diminishing returns in terms of slowing down the system. So if you see, if we turn it on 3 ticks, turn our clock back on, it'll be slower, oops, but it'll grow that crop nearly every single time. Now, if you're not swimming in bone meal, this might be a good idea. And I have used this in the past on 3 ticks, and it's perfectly fine. Let's just take care of this real quick. So 3 ticks is perfectly fine if you're a little low on bone meal or you don't want your inventory to fill up with seeds, although there are other ways to do that. You can see if we get rid of some of these seeds, what we can do is, that was the wrong button, but we can just fill up our inventory with 1 piece of wheat, and then we won't get the seeds. We will only pick up the wheat. But then all the entities will also create lag. So 3 ticks can be a good thing, and it's all up to personal preference whether you want it to be on 2 or 3 ticks. If you set it on 4 ticks, it's going to be no gain. It's actually going to be a little bit slower because on 3 ticks we already have it growing nearly every single time anyways. So if you never want to have a fail, I suppose you can set it on 4 ticks, but I wouldn't suggest it. So why is 2 ticks the magic number? Well, 2 ticks, if we do a little bit of testing here, you see that probably 70–80% of the time we're getting a full grow. Now, 2 ticks versus 3 ticks, 2 ticks is going to be, mathematically, 50% faster than 3 ticks. So if we're only so let's say 2 ticks is an 80% success rate and 3 ticks is a 95% success rate. So for 15% less success, we're getting 50% more speed. So that's why I think that 2 ticks is the perfect sweet spot for that. But again, it's personal preference, and you can set it on 2 ticks or 3 ticks, however you want. Now, let's talk about this. So, we have our repeater running into a block with a piece of redstone dust on top. So the reason for that is this repeater, A, it's there for the timing, but it's also a very convenient way to bring this up just one block. So this repeater is going to what's called hard power this block, but if we take that piece of redstone dust off, now it's not going to work because this piston, while it is getting bud powered by this block because it's a diagonal, in Bedrock Edition it won't get powered at all. But in Java Edition it is getting bud powered. But the problem with bud power is you need to then update this block. So in order to get around that, it's really easy because this block's getting powered, and if a piece of redstone dust is on top of a powered block, that dust will pick up the signal. So then this redstone dust is directly powering this piston, and no more problems. So the last thing to talk about here, and this is kind of a nitty-gritty that most people know already, but this is a redstone explained. So this observer is powering this block. Now, the way that we're actually getting the signal from that is the same concept that we're doing with this block. So we have a piece of redstone dust on top of this block, which is getting hard powered by this observer. And that piece of redstone dust will pick up that signal from the powered block and put it into our circuit. So then, if we follow that along, we plant the crop, this observer goes off, powers this block, and then this piece of redstone dust. The signal travels around to this repeater. This repeater waits 2 ticks and then powers this block. This piece of redstone dust picks up the power from that and powers the piston. And like we said over here, this is just an observer clock. So when we push the 2 observers together, they sense each other's block updates, and it will hard power this block, which will then power each one of these dispensers. So that's the whole system. And I wanted to start off this series with something simple and small like this crop micro farm because I feel like it's a good way to get into a lot of the mechanics and functions of Redstone without giving you some massive build that you have to remember 25 different things about. This is nice and simple. There's a clock and a basic circuit, and that's all that there really is Redstone-wise. So if you liked the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more Redstone explained videos like this. And I would love it if you would leave a comment below, and I will read every single one. All right, this has been Zerco, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.